I don't know why the app is asking me for permission to record as if this is my first recording, but anyway. This video will contain spoilers. nosferatu 2024 slash 5. Universally positive rating, strict by Robert Eggers. I watched it in cinema. Lily Rose Depp, Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe. I didn't realize that was Emma Corrin. Nicholas Hoult. The voice, Ralph Ineson's voice, it sounded so familiar. The only thing I could think of was there was an episode of Doctor Who called The Crimson Horror, and I don't exactly remember what the episode was about, but I remember there was someone with a similar accent. Probably the episode probably took place wherever the fuck Ralph was from. Although I thought Ralph was Irish. Huh. Leeds. Maybe it takes place in Leeds, and and it's a Leeds accent. I'm not sure, but I know of Ralph. I just didn't recognize him. And Aaron Taylor Johnson. I went into this with no expectations because I've seen two of Robert Eggers' films before. I've seen The Lighthouse, which I'll admit I couldn't get into, and I've seen The Northman, which I think that film is underrated. As for this, I quite liked it. Although I don't think it's this sort of. I don't know I don't know much about Nosferatu. Like I've seen that show NOS 482 with Zachary Quinto as Nosferatu. That's about it. So I don't know what the origin of the character is, because I thought Dracula was the first sort of vampire novel, and as far as I know, the only vampire in Dracula is Dracula. I get that Dracula was based off of some real life events that led to people believing that vampires were a real thing, but I don't know. Assuming that Nosferatu is based off a book, I don't know how accurate it is to that book, but assuming that it is fully accurate, I don't get the hype. It's a good film. Maybe it's a good book, but I wouldn't say it's so good that it's highly influential on media 2 centuries later. But like I like something about like the way that what's the character name again? Ellen sacrificed herself. I thought that was done really well. Although I think Orlok should have realized, oh, it's nearly daytime. I need to run because I'm a fucking vampire, and you know we're allergic to sun. Kind of rule one of vampire media. But other than that, I think it was done really well. I was thinking about an hour to the film that Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp's performances were great. But then by the end of the film, I'm thinking, there's no one in this. Like, I was going to single those two out, not to say that anyone else was bad, but it's just, those two in particular were great. But with the rest of the film, like, I can't single anyone out because they're all amazing performances. Like, I wasn't expecting anything less because I've seen most of these people in other things, and I know how good they are. But there was something that I noticed. A lot of Nicholas Hoult, a lot of what he did, especially when he was in Orlok's castle, was just mouth gaped, sweating, veins popping out of. At the start, it was just his forehead, but there was a scene where he took his shirt off and there were veins everywhere. A paper cut could kill him. That I made this meme. That's just what he does. Like, The camera will pan around him. His mouth is gaped open, um, and all that. And then Lily Rose Depp, uh, I decided to put Shido from Blue Lock because man always has his tongue out. I should have took Toko Fukawa from Danganronpa, but the problem with me doing that is that a friend of mine is currently playing that game. He doesn't. He hasn't seen the part where Genocide Jack like fully comes out for the first time, so I'm gonna wait for him to get to that part because like the fucking long ass tongue and all that. But anyway, like I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just I don't understand what makes it so. What makes people say that it's so good. Like with what was going on in Orlok's castle, I couldn't tell 100% what's going on, and there's nothing wrong with not answering questions, but I just think it could have been done better. I understood that Nicholas Holt's character is a solicitor or something like that, and that Orlok has hired that company that he works for, and the company selected Nicholas to go to Orlok's castle and sort out some sort of deed. And I thought that it was just the deed was being sorted out. Orlok notices the whatever it was that Ellen gave to Nick. And Orlok says, "Oh, you're married and all that, yeah." And then Orlok sort of tricks him, changes his contract from whatever the deed was to, I will take your wife, and Nick signs it because he's not reading the contract. He's just wanting to get the fuck out of there, ASAP. Something else I noticed that I've only just thought about now. The film is set in Germany. The majority of the characters are English. I don't know if it's a case of they're actually speaking German, um, but it's just since it's an American film, the Hollywood studios aren't going to want to have the film entirely in German. Also, I mean, the cast would have to learn German, which is going to delay production for a bit. But if that's the case, why have them all do English accents? Because not all the cast is English. Lily Rose Depp is French American, and Willem Dafoe is American. So why not? Why not just cast English people if you want to have people doing English accents? I get it makes more sense to have them have an English accent than a German or sorry, an English accent rather than an American accent. But it's confusing. I think the majority of my problems with this are just with my ignorance towards the story of Nosferatu. If I knew more, it would be a lot more clear to me. But I've what I was going to say was that Nick, I can't remember the character's name. I'm just going to call him Nick. He signs a contract, not knowing that it's about his wife. He thinks that it's still a deed, and he signed it by reading it because he wants to get the fuck out of there ASAP because he has a feeling that has given him absolute dread. He wants to get out of there ASAP because he thinks that there's something evil about Orlok. So I don't know if that's what happened, or the plan the entire time was just to take his wife, because it does seem like that based on what he says to what Orlok says to Ellen when they first physically meet. It's just one of those ones where it's very, very confusing, but it's not a bad confusing. And well, in this case, it's not 100% fine, but it could just be my ignorance. So I can forgive it. Like I would still say, really good film. Go check it out. Immediately after coming home from the cinema, me Dylan, for the most part, he had to stop watching it, like 3/4 way through because of some stuff. Ginger, who also watched nosferatu, and Binman all watched Bumblebee. Mixed ratings. I watched it on Paramount. Well, we watched it on Paramount. Excuse me. Haley Steinfeld, Peter Cullen, John Cena. Oh, that's Angela Bassett. I was going to look up who that was, but I kept on scrolling through and I couldn't find who voiced Shatter. Anyway, Justin Theroux. Okay, Dylan O'Brien. The fuck, the fuck's up with this guy? Goddamn. Steve Bloom, Kenneth Troy, Greg Griffin, and Iblominos. This was somewhat appealing to me because Bumblebee is quite an interesting character. Um, like when I was an outsider to the Transformers lore, as in when I hadn't seen any of them, the only ones I really knew of were Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. And I thought once I'd watched the films that I would know who the rest are, but I don't really because they kind of just weave in and out. Bumblebee and Optimus are really the only two constants, at least somewhat constant. Um, and also the fact that this is like an hour shorter than the Michael Bay films. They don't they can be like very easily cut down to an hour and a half, maybe less. So even though it didn't feel as long, it didn't take as long. So I still had time to do shit before I went to bed, which it was great. um Fuck, my mind is blank now. It was quite an interesting film. The setting I thought was great. Costuming, music, all that. They really set the tone of the 80s, although it did seem kind of like, as someone who obviously wasn't around in the 80s, I'm only 20 years old. Um, it that could just be they're copying the same stereotypes that you see in 80s films, especially ones in America. I don't know because I wasn't there. But anyway, I like it. The Transformers. I think this is the best that they have ever looked. The inconsistency is still here because Last Night says that Bumblebee was fought in World War II, but yet this film is supposed to be him coming to Earth for the first time, and it takes place in 1987. I was hoping we were gone from the inconsistencies, but apparently not. John Cena's character in this says the like realist thing that has ever been said in the entire franchise. They're called the Decepticons, isn't that a bit of a red flag? Although he is somewhat of a fucking idiot for still trusting them anyway. I pointed that out and Dylan said that, but he's not fully trusting them. He's just working with them to capture this one transformer. That still doesn't make sense because I don't know what he was thinking, obviously, because it's not like they're gonna give us a fucking monologue or whatever. But let's assume that he thinks that all the Transformers are Decepticons. Why then would he help the Decepticons fight a Decepticon? That is a red flag. But he still helped them. And it's just, I don't even know what to say. They had a character in this called Memo. What kind of fucking name is that? And also, it just seemed like, oh, we need to have a bit of romance in here, even though this is an action film made for kids. It doesn't make any sense why they do keep on doing that, but whatever. I'm just glad that they didn't kiss at the end. I mean, I think my opinion on it is that yeah, they do eventually like fall madly in love and get married and all that, but they didn't show it on the film, so that's fine. So overall, if you don't count Transformers One, as in the animated one, this is the best Transformers film. This is the best live action Transformers film. That's the best way I can put it.